Hi, everyone, and welcome to the ninth episode of Battles and Voices. I'm Lathika, and I'm the founder and host.
And I'm Camden, and I'm the co-host.
And I'm Shivani, the content script editor lead, and together we serve on the executive team of Vitals and Voices.
Battles and Voices shares the stories of healthcare professionals, offering their experiences and insights to motivate and guide the next generation of medical leaders.
Please welcome our guest, Arman.
Armin, thank you so much for being here. It's really great to have you on Vitals and Voices.
To start, could you give us a brief introduction about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, first off, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. Hey, my name is Arman. I'm a second year audiology student now at California State University in Northridge in Los Angeles. Um, I went to UCLA for undergrad. I majored in sociology. Um, and I have always been someone passionate about medicine as a whole, healthcare as a whole. When it came time to deciding the field that I was going into, I always wanted to pick a field that had a lot of patient interaction. So that kind of gravitated me towards this field initially. Um, so that's that. And then what do I like to do outside of school? Just for everyone to know who I am. I love playing sports. I'm very into basketball and tennis. I'm actually missing some of the US Open final for this. So this shows how dedicated I am to you guys and love basketball, love tennis. I love the gym. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here.
That's great. So the first question is, what inspired you to enter the healthcare field and pursue audiology?
So yeah, definitely from the beginning, I knew I wanted to be in healthcare. Like that was the for sure a given. It was just a matter of what field specifically I wanted to choose. And I was looking into many different things, medical school, audiology, podiatry, even optometry. I was honestly very open-minded. Um, and ultimately, I wanted to be in a field that had both patient interaction, but also could like improve communication. So I think the beauty of audiology is that it really can change someone's life um, from a standpoint of communication and speech and hearing. So that's one thing that really gravitated me towards it. Another thing was my own experience with central auditory processing disorder when I was diagnosed about the age of 10 or 11. That kind of opened another gateway for me to try to help people of the same or who are dealing with the same issues. CAPD in small, like in a small explanation, is just when a person is able to hear completely fine, but they have trouble understanding and processing the speech, especially in background noise. So it can cause a variety of problems. Like in school, you can hear the teacher just fine, but you're not processing it the same way that an average person would. So dealing with that was something that really, opened my mind and wanted me to help people of that same challenge. So that's kind of what made me really want to pursue it seriously.
That's so beautiful.
Wonderful.
Moving on to the next question. When situations get tough, like working with pediatric patients or those who are facing serious conditions, what motivates you to keep going?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love how you guys asked that because in audiology, especially pediatric testing is like so different, incredibly different than um, testing in adults. So it's actually there's separate tests that are designed specifically for pediatric patients. Like is an example of that would be VRA, which is visual reinforcement audiometry. Instead of the natural traditional just pressing the button when you hear it, you have to actually train the child to like look whenever they hear to test both ears. So it's a really incredible thing. But like you said, it's very tough. Um, and it's very emotional too. Like I've had patients who it's very sad. I've had patients which what you call a disorder. It's called atresia, which is you just have no outer ear, like your outer ear just, or either it's underdeveloped or it's just not there. Or you have stenosis where it's narrow, the canal is very, very narrow, or you have anotia, which is just no ear at all. So these things are just like a lot of when kids have it, it's really, really hard to treat. And you just feel really hard. You feel like this is so unfair. You know, why is he having to deal with this? But it's really in the beginning is where it's emotional. But once you're able to overcome that, and once you're able to actually permanently alter their life, things like this are why I'm in the field, because like the smiles on their faces, the parents become like emotional out of like from the outcomes of that nature. So I'm very, very fortunate to be in this position where I can help them overcome that. But you're absolutely right. It's extremely, very, very challenging. But you know, that motivation towards the end is really what keeps me going.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. So, yeah, clearly audiology is like a very diverse field. And I know you already spoke a little bit about this, but can you share more about like vestibular disorders, why you're passionate about this area, and how all of this just impacts patients in general?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, vestibular disorders are literally like about balance. So they cause unsteadiness or dizziness or even anxiety. And basically, like to give a very simple explanation, the most common thing that we see in audiology, it's called BPPV, benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, which just means that it's motion induced. So if you make a head movement this way or that way, the crystals that are embedded in the inner ear, we'll call it one of the canals of the inner ear, dislodge. And those crystals are called otoconia, and they're responsible for movement and balance. So when those crystals are dislodged from where they're supposed to be, they're free floating in the canal, and then you have no sense of orientation and movement. So they're not telling you when your head is turning to the right or to the left. They think it's actually turning to the right when it's not, if that makes sense. So that's how that happens. And then that literally can cause life altering falls. You can fall on your head and you can have a traumatic brain injury. You can fall on your, when you're playing sports, you can fall at work. It's just like the craziest, scariest thing. So I think it's really, really interesting for me is because this intersects with so many other fields in medicine, physical therapy, ENT, neurology. Like there's a team of people that have to work, optometry also, that have to work with the audio with the patient to make sure that we can pin this issue before it gets life threatening. So treatment like this can actually like drastically improve someone's mobility and independence. And you're really preventing someone and building their confidence in their balance. You don't want them to fall, and you want them to be confident in whatever they're doing. So that's something that it really, really interests me, and it's growing actually in the field of audiology. It's very somewhat new. So I'm very excited to learn more about that as I'm in school.
That's great to hear. So we also love to hear more about your research. So can you tell us more about your project on hearing protection among dental professionals and why it matters so much?
Yeah, so it focuses primarily on how either dental students or dental hygienist students are exposed to high frequency noise. That's like what's the most damaging for the cochlea. The cochlea is the organ in your inner ear that is responsible for hearing. And the cochlea is what's called tonotopically organized. So that means like at the base versus the apex of the cochlea are different frequencies. So at the apex are where low frequencies lie, which are harder to reach the apex, but the base is more vulnerable. That's where the high frequencies lie. So if you have a lot of high frequency noise, then you're more likely to cause damage to that vulnerable part of the cochlea. So dentists, and I have so many friends in dental school, so many friends in dental hygiene school that tell me like every single day we're in sim lab and we're drilling and we don't have really even whether you have earplugs or whether you have headphones, like it's still gonna, really get to that ear. And like drills and suction tools and all these things are really damaging, especially every day you're practicing hours and hours and hours on end. So long term, it can contribute to noise induced hearing loss, which is one of the most the second most common form of hearing loss, which is that. And basically, we looked at awareness levels and prevention habits among dentists and hygienists, and it's been very, very eye opening. So, in a lot of audiology clinics, we offer custom made earplugs where we take an actual impression of the person's ear canal and we custom make the earplugs to that person's canal. I've done it on like, I want to say 10 different dental student friends I have. I want to say 10, 8 to 10. And they, after I pushed them and bothered them about it, and now they're finally wearing, and they're, it's preventing long-term issues because these things are, unfortunately, noise-induced hearing loss is irreversible. So we wanted to make sure we prevented that from getting to that level. So that's kind of what the research is showing. And the research is showing that it's definitely been huge for hearing protection in those individuals. It's been great. So we want to keep pushing them to make sure they're doing the right thing as they're young and in school, because we don't want to cause irreversible damage.
That's an amazing way to look out for your friends as well while doing research at the same time on that topic. Out of everything that you've worked on so far, what accomplishment makes you the most proudest?
I had to think about this one for a while. I think the main thing that I've noticed in grad school is everyone deals with imposter syndrome. Every single person I've ever dealt with in grad school, and if they're saying they don't, they're lying. Like everyone has imposter syndrome, and it's easy to say, "Oh, I got lucky. I got in because I'm lucky." But honestly, to be frank with you guys, just getting into this program, like, was like a very, very special moment for me, and it's a very like rigorous and competitive program. So when I first got in, I was like, "Oh, like I got lucky, this, that, and the other." But when you take a step back and you kind of appreciate the small steps along the way, I think it's very, very beneficial. So getting into my program and honestly passing my first year boards, like things like this, um, ultimately, hopefully one day when I graduate, and that's going to be a bigger accomplishment, but you just want to take them step by step. You don't want to just jump into saying, "Oh, I didn't deserve to be here. I got lucky. I haven't accomplished anything yet." So it's great to look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, that's really cool. So what advice would you give to other students who are considering audiology or other less well-known healthcare fields?
Another phenomenal question when I was looking into this. So I would say don't be afraid to explore beyond the big name healthcare fields. Like anyone and anyone knows that when you want to go into healthcare, the first thing people think of is MD or DO. I want to go to MD school or a DO school. Like that's the number one thing. And then if not that, oh, dental school because that's the next closest thing, or podiatry or whatever. Um, there's so many fields in medicine that still provide direct patient care and still are life-changing field or life-altering field for the patient, and are still very, very rewarding fields. Audiology being one of them, optometry being another one of them. Um, the list is endless. Pharmacy, physical therapy, all these things can really impact and change your patient's life, and it gets the chance to really know your patient. So I would encourage people to look beyond the typical MD-DO route, because actually myself, I was in the same, so I was actually pre-med first, and I was in med school for a year, actually, funny enough. So I was in medical school for a year in a DO program, and I was initially planning on becoming an ENT. That was my number one goal because my obsession with the auditory system. But eventually I realized like this is just not A for me, and B feasible. Like you're learning about the entire body, and I just want to be focusing on the ears and the nose and the head and neck region. Why do I have to be in med school for 4 years and then ENT residency for 4 or 5 more years? Why don't I just pivot and become an audiologist when it takes 4 years to do that? So do I regret that? No, because I learned so many things in that one year of school. But I would say, like, don't give up on a field in medicine. If you feel like medical school, you're not able to achieve it or you can't get through it or whatnot, there's so many beautiful fields in healthcare that you can still pursue and really change someone's life. Don't just jump. I have many people who I know who jumped. I couldn't get into med school, so they just jumped to law school or I don't know, something of that nature. I would, if you have a passion and a heart for medicine, which is rare, I think you should, before jumping off the bandwagon, look into other fields that are lesser known, and you'll be surprised with the outcome.
Yeah, definitely. So how do you balance your academic responsibilities with your personal interest or hobbies like basketball, the gym, and even spending time with your family and friends?
Another great question. To be honest with you guys, like you're never gonna feel like you have enough time. You're always gonna feel like I wish I had 2, 3, 4 more hours for every exam. It's just how it is in grad school. Um, it's just you gotta choose your priorities. You gotta be intentional with your time. So for me personally, I treat the gym or basketball like an actual scheduled appointment. I don't treat it like, oh, like let me just go because I want to go chill. It's not really like that. It's like, all right, like I need to, if I don't work out 4 to 5 times a week, then my sleep is affected, my stress is affected, my studying is affected. So it's just a vicious cycle. So you have to do it for your own good. If you skip basketball or the gym, yes, you maybe save 2 hours of your day, but it's counterproductive because the studying is not as productive as it would be. So you got to choose what's important to you, what your body needs, and make sure you're decompressing and resetting. Um, and as for spending time with family and friends, of course, that's another thing that keeps you grounded, and you need to do that too. Obviously, balance is not uh, easy, but I think over time it's important to recognize what your body needs and what you need to succeed. Because I have friends who, I don't know how they do it, but I have friends who never go to the gym. They sleep 4 hours every single night, 3, 4 hours, and pulling all nighters before exams. Like I just can't operate like it's not feasible. You can't just not sleep in a minute before an exam. But I have people who do that and they're chilling. So some people are different, but me personally, you got to know yourself, know your body, and know what it needs and what it can handle. Um, so that's what I would say. Know yourself.
I think it's always important to take time for yourself and just maintaining a well schedule. So, final question. Looking ahead, where do you see yourself taking your career in ideology? Are there specific areas you would like to um, specialize in, or projects that you want to pursue further?
So definitely for me, my dad is also in the field as an audiologist. That's another thing that really gravitated me towards, which I did not mention in the beginning. I apologize, but he and I want to work together and kind of expand his clinic in one way or another. He's a tinnitus specialist, which is ringing in the ear. He's been like unbelievable. He has changed the lives of so many patients with tinnitus, like who were suicidal because they couldn't do anything. Like they couldn't sleep, they couldn't work. They had their life was literally on pause. And my dad has been treating people with tinnitus for like 30 years now. So I want to work with him, but because his abilities in tinnitus treatment are just unmatched, I don't want to get into that specialty because that's already being covered by him. So I'm personally looking into vestibular assessment and rehab, and also the central auditory processing disorder that I was mentioning with you earlier that I had as a kid. These two things my dad doesn't really do much of at all, and I think it'd be really great to add that to his clinic if I were to go work for him or if I were to work somewhere else before to gain experience in that regard, because then we could be a multi-specialty practice. And you can cover all aspects of audiology. So and it's great because I have a lot of interest in it too. So I think combining a clinical practice, which is I've always been my dream. I've always wanted to own my own clinic. Um, with him would be like special, a family kind of thing, and I could learn. I've already learned so much from him, and I'm very, very eager to learn more. Um, and yeah, even mentoring students coming into the field. He has a lot of students. He has people coming in on their rotations like all the time for their fourth year, and that's something that I feel like would be really, really fun, and I'd really enjoy. Um, so yeah, I'm very, very excited. That's where it's looking.
Wow. Yeah, that's such a wholesome goal to have for yourself in the future. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your journey in audiology today. I think you've given us a lot of important like life lessons and messages like for us to believe in the future.
Your work shows how impactful this field can be, not just at not just in hearing health, but also in balance, communication, and overall quality of life.
And to everyone tuning in, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Vitals and Voices. We hope you were inspired by Arman's story and learned more about the importance of audiology.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow, share, and stay tuned for more inspiring conversations.
We'll see you next time on Vitals and Voices.